Convo's your guide. Wednesday, Sundays, catch the ride. Football hoops, we breaking wide. Stats and facts, truth on high. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Hit the corner of the field, we strategize. Breaking the game down, no disguise. Play by play, we analyze. Out where sharp, we magnify. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays heat, Sundays ignite. We talking legends shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Cats pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays heat, Sundays ignite. We talking legends shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Cats pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel.
All right, everybody, what's going on, man? How y'all doing? Welcome to today's edition of Swag Talk, the show we cover the swag inside and out. I am your tour guide around the swag, Steve Wells, coming at you. And today we are gonna recap week 12, man. Week 12 is in the books. Got one full week of action left this coming up, and then we got just only a couple games in week 14. So season is wrapping up. We do have one half of the swag championship game set. So we are on the road to December, man. It's a Celebration Bowl Swag Championship. Everything's shaping up, and it's looking pretty good. So, with that being said, man, y'all make sure y'all hit those socials: Facebook, Swag Talk, Instagram, Swag Talk, Twitter, Swag Talk 76. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. We almost at 1,500 subs, so if we can get to that goal, that would be tremendous. 2K is the next goal, but we're gonna chop down this 1,500 first, and go from there. We thank y'all in advance. And we're gonna continue to work for y'all subs. So with that being said, man, let's go ahead and not waste any time. We're gonna start off with the new West Division champs for 2025, the Prairie View A&M Panthers. Coach Jackson gets these guys back to the SWAC championship, and it's been that every other year cycle. So this year Prairie View was back on top, and they've been dominant these last couple of weeks. They've been really running through people. And they ran through Pine Bluff 56-9. This game was never really close. You had a 28-3 halftime lead, and they scored 28 more points in the second half to basically blow this game out. Pine Bluff got 6 points in the second half, but not enough. Lamaje McDowell got the scoring started with 6:07 left in the first quarter when he had a 13-yard run, extra point good. Panthers went up 7-0. McDowell got a second touchdown, this time from 2 yards out with 14:52 left in the second quarter. Panthers up 14-0. Then Andre Dennis 10-yard pass from Cam Peters, extra point good, 21-0. That came at 9:17 in the first half. Pine Bluff will get on the board with 3:44 left in the first when Trey Gliff kicked a 27-yard field goal, 21-3. Andre Dennis 6-yard pass from Peters with 37 seconds left in the first half, 28-3. Like I said, that's our halftime score. Pine Bluff will get their only touchdown of the night when Jalen Jennings had a 56-yard run with 14:22 left in the third quarter. Conversion no good, 28-9. Chase Bingman will get the Panthers back on the board with 17 left in the third when he had a 6-yard touchdown run, extra point good, 35-9. And then Bingman had a 74-yard run with 14:48 left in the game. Extra point good, 49-9. And then Cameron Bonner had a 65-yard pass from Tevin Carter. Extra point good. That came with 4:42 left in the game. And Panthers went up 56-9, which would be our final score. This was a dominant effort by the Panthers. And when you look at it, numerically, it was as well. Pine Bluff only 10 first downs, 30 for Prairie View, 173 yards on the ground for the Golden Lions, 37 carries, 4.7 yards per carry, one touchdown, 288 on the ground for the Panthers, 41 carries, 7 yards per carry, four touchdowns, uh, 80 yards passing for the Golden Lions, 9 of 16, no touchdowns, one interception, 356 through the air for the Panthers, 22 of 26, four touchdowns, no interceptions. And one thing about this team is, all season Prairie View's been able to run the ball and run it well, but now their passing attack is getting in there and they're being efficient with it, and that is dangerous. When you can run the ball and throw it, you're tough to stop. And then when you got a defense you can lean on, that really makes it tough. And Pine Bluff was held to 253 total yards on 53 plays, 4.8 yards per play. They did fumble once but didn't lose it. They had 9 penalties for 102 yards. Prairie View 644 yards of offense on 67 plays, 9.6 yards per play, no fumbles, and they had 6 penalties for 57 yards. Golden Lions punted 7 times for a 45.3 yard average. Panthers 2 for a 33 yard average. Pine Bluff 28-minute, 32-second time possession, 2 of 13 on third downs, 1 or 2 on fourth downs. They were 1 or 2 in the red zone. No sacks, no extra points, and they made their only field goal. Prairie View 31, 28 time of possession, 7 of 11 on third down, 1 or 2 on fourth down. They were 5 of 5 in the red zone, and they had 1 sack, made all 8 of their extra points, and did not attempt a field goal. Individually, DJ Stevenson, 8 of 15 for 78 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked once. Cam Peters, 20 of 24, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also, Tevin Carter, 2 for 2 for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jalen Jennings, 20 carries, 114 yards and a touchdown for the Golden Lions. Chase Bingman, 15 for 135 and 2 touchdowns. Jordan Jackson led the Golden Lions with 2 catches for 37 yards. Josiah Rockwell, 5 for 67 to lead the Panthers. Pine Bluff was led by Deron Moore and Quentin Sterling, each with 14 tackles apiece. Sterling had 1 tackle for loss to lead the team. Like I said, no sacks, no interceptions. Prairie View was led by Cornelius Davis with 8 tackles. Darrell Starling, Cameron Amayo, and Sterling Roberts each had a tackle for loss apiece. Sack was by Amaro. Interception also by him. So, like I said, this was just a dominant game, man. And this is how you lock up your division, man. This is how you win the division outright. This is how you put yourself in a position that no matter what happens the rest of the way, you are the division champs. You come out, you take care of business, and you move on. So big win for Prairie View. Like I said, now they basically await their opponent. And so there never really was any real doubt for them winning the championship. It was just whether it be this week or next week. But it's this week, so now they can go into their final game of the season, kind of, not taking it easy because you don't want to do that. But they going into their final week of the season without worrying about what they need to do to win a championship. So they have made it back after a 1-year absence, and so this is they have as good a chance as any in this game. And I'm looking forward to whatever the matchup is that they have, because it should be a good one. Next up, we'll continue with the state of Texas, and we'll see Texas Southern having a big comeback victory over Southern. This time it was their time to come back and win. Southern actually played probably one of the better games that they played all season, but ultimately the second half mistakes again caught up with them, and Texas Southern was able to capitalize and get the win. This was a pretty entertaining game. No matter how you look at it, it was a pretty entertaining game. Both teams were able to do some things, but Texas Southern, they're 5-5, and they have opportunity to win 6 games for the first time in quite a while. So they still have something positive going for them. Southern, horrible season, historically horrible season continues. First team since I think like 1949. First Southern team since like 1949 to not win a game at home. It's been rough. They potentially can finish with the worst record ever in Southern football if they go 1-11. So this is just a horrible season for them, and it's still got a couple of weeks before it's over. And so it's not much to be said there. But Southern got it started with 9:49 left in the first quarter when Cam Jefferson caught a 51-yard pass from Ashton Strother. Extra point good, 7-0. TSU will get on the board with 7:41 left in the first when Trenton Leary will catch a 9-yard pass from KJ Cooper. Extra point good, game tied at 7. Dupree Fuller, 54-yard pass from Strother. Southern back up 14-7 after the extra point. They came with 2:55 left in the first. And then with 8:24 left in the first half, Strother 1-yard run for Southern, extra point good, 21-7. Tigers will get on the board when Lawrence Butler will run for 12 yards and a touchdown with 2:02 left in the first half, 21-14. 146 left in the third quarter. Nathan Zimmer, 26-yard field goal for Southern, 24-14. With no time left in the third quarter, Butler 2-yard run for the Tigers, extra point good, 24-21. 10:37 left in the game. Cordell Rogers, 3-yard pass from Cooper, extra point good, 28-24. And then Jalen Williams, 12-yard pass from Cooper, extra point good, 35-24. That came with 7:43 left in the game, 3:10 left in the game. Cam McCoy, 5-yard run, conversion no good. 35-30. TSU would basically run the clock out from there and get the victory. Tigers 19 first downs, Jaguars 23. 159 yards rushing for Texas Southern, 39 carries, 4.1 yard per carry, 2 touchdowns. 224 on the ground for Southern, 41 carries, 5.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. 210 through the air for the Tigers, 17 of 20, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Southern 213 through the air, 12 of 23, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 369 yards for the Tigers, 59 plays, 6.3 yards per play. They had 1 fumble and didn't lose it. They had 1 penalty for 15 yards. Southern 437 total offense, 64 plays, 6.8 yards per play. They fumbled 3 times and lost 2, so 3 turnovers is basically the difference in this game. 4 penalties for 45 yards. Take Southern punted 5 times for a 35-yard average. Southern 2 for 41.5. Time of possession 31-17 for the Tigers. 6 of 11 on third down. No fourth down attempts. 5 of 5 in the red zone. No sacks. They were 5 of 5 on extra points and missed the only field goal. Southern 28-43 time of possession. 8 of 12 on third down. 1 of 1 on fourth down. 3 or 4 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks, and they were 3 of 3 on extra points, and they made their only field goal. Like I said, this was a pretty even game, and like I said, those turnovers really just killed Southern. This was a pretty even game, and the turnovers were basically the difference in this game. And that kind of stuff will always come back to bite you. KJ Cooper, 17 of 20, 210 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 sacks. Strother, 11 of 21, 191 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, no sacks. Butler had 14 carries for 65 yards and 2 touchdowns to lead the Tigers. Barry Remo led Southern with 24 carries for 120 yards, no touchdowns. Also, Rorion Richardson, 3 catches for 66 yards for the Tigers. Fuller led Southern with 3 for 77 and a touchdown. Edric Whitley and Charles George and Matthew Cooks each had 8 tackles for the Tigers. George had a tackle for loss, no sacks. Interception was by Quentin Murray. Southern was led in tackles by Kelby Givens with 7. Grayson LaFleur also had 7. Givens had 1.5 tackle for loss, and he also had 1.5 sacks. So, like I said, not a lot to take from this if you Southern. Just another L to go along with the rest of these tough L's. This was one of the better games that they played, even though the defense gave up 35 points. They still played a competitive game. You just got, you got one game left to play out the string, and then you get on that new coach grind. So, not much there, but a nice win for TSU. They stayed resilient. Um, having having Renfro go down, I think he had an ankle injury. Um, other guys stepped up, and the offense was efficient under Cooper. He did a good job with the passing game, and defensively they got the stops that they needed, and that was that. So it was a good win for them. They got a chance to win 6 games now, so they do have something to play for moving forward. Next up is Alcorn defeating Grambling by a score of 27-16. Um, of course, we know Grambling had guys out because of the suspension, but when you step on the field, you still got to be there. And Alcorn, basically, this was a nice game. They had control of this game for a good while before Grambling kind of got back in it and took the lead, and then Alcorn was able to pull away at the end. Um, Grambling scored first on a Caballero 37-yard field goal with 5:36 left in the first quarter. Tigers go up 3-0. Alcorn will get a Jacorian Sewell 8-yard run with 54 seconds left in the first. Extra point good, 7-3. Reggie Davis will get a 1-yard run for Alcorn with 6:29 left in the first half to make the score 14-3, and that will be our halftime score. Coming out of the half, Grambling had a good scoring second half. If they got a field goal from Caballero from 29 yards out with 2:29 left in the third, they went up. They trailed at that point 14-6, and then Tyrell Raby will get a 10-yard fumble recovery. Extra point good. That came with 2:21 left in the third. Tigers trail 14-13. And then Caballero will get a field goal with 8:03 left in the game to make the score 16-14. And then Reggie Davis will get a 1-yard run for Alcorn with 4:50 left in the game. And the Braves went back up 21-16. And then Eric Thomas will get a fumble recovery for the Braves to make the score 27-16. So all in all, this was a game that Alcorn pretty much had control of. Grambling was still competed and they fought, especially defensively, but offensively they just couldn't really get anything going. Which coming off of that game they had last week, big drop off this week. But Tigers finished with 15 first downs, Braves 21, Grambling 99 yards on the ground, 30 carries, 3.3 yards per carry, no touchdowns, 151 yards on the ground for Alcorn, 39 carries, 3.9 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Grambling 16 of 33 through the air, 142 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. 167 through the air for Alcorn, 23 of 31, no touchdowns, no interceptions. 241 yards of offense for Grambling, 63 plays, 3.8 yards per play. They had 2 fumbles and lost 1. They had 5 penalties for 40 yards. Alcorn 318 yards of offense on 70 plays, 4.5 yards per play. They fumbled twice and lost 1. And they had 11 penalties for 80 yards. Grambling 6 punts for a 36-yard average. Alcorn 7 for 296. Time of possession 29-39 for Grambling. 4 of 15 on third downs. 0 for 1 on fourth down. 2 of 2 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks. They were 1 of 1 on extra points. 3 of 3 on field goals. Alcorn 29-33 time of possession. 6 of 13 on third down. Didn't attempt a fourth down. 3 of 4 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks. They were 3 of 3 on extra points, and they missed a field goal. Individually, Hayden Benoit, 16 of 33, 142 yards, no touchdown, no interception. He was sacked twice. Jalen Tolbert, 23 of 30, 167 yards, no touchdown, no interceptions. He was sacked twice. Andre Cruz led Grambling with 16 carries for 69 yards. Reggie Davis, 18 for 80 for Alcorn with 2 touchdowns. Keith Jones, 4 catches, 48 yards for Grambling. Jarvis Rush, 10 for 83 for Alcorn. Bryce Cage led the defense with 9 tackles. Robinson and Johnson each had a tackle for loss apiece. Sacks were by Robinson led the defense with one sack. Alcorn was led in tackles by Stamarion Edwards with 15 tackles. T.B. Hinton led the defense with 2 tackles for loss. He also had 2 sacks. So this was a good game for Alcorn. They continue to kind of put together some wins and find some positivity for them after that slow start. Tough loss for Grambling. They still had outside hopes for the division. It was gonna take a lot of ifs and ands, but they still had a shot. So this game got away from them. And this is another game where offensively they just didn't really have it. Uh, Similar to the A&M game a couple weeks ago, where they just couldn't really do a lot offensively. Defensively, they can score points defensively, and sometimes they keep them in games, but they just weren't able to make anything happen uh, enough to keep the Braves out of the end zone and off the scoreboard. And Alcorn picks up the win. Next up, we have Florida A&M getting a hard fought victory over Alabama A&M by a score of 26-23. This game was a back and forth game. It looked like each team had a chance to kind of take control, but neither would. And it ultimately came down to FAMU scoring a late touchdown in the fourth quarter to take the lead. FAMU got on the score first when Kanari Wilcher caught a 27-yard pass from R.J. Johnson. Conversion no good, 6-0. A&M, Alabama A&M would get a David Falk 47-yard field goal with 5:27 left in the second quarter. That made it score 6-3. Bulldogs take the lead on a Ryan Morrow 80-yard run with 150 left in the half, 10-6. And then R.J. Johnson will get a 7-yard run for the Rattlers with 22 seconds left. Conversion no good. They would lead 12-10. Falk will get a 23-yard field goal going into the half for the Bulldogs. Made it score 13-12. That would be our halftime score. Coming out of the half with 5:24 left in the third, a 29-yard field goal from Falk will make the score 16-12. Wilcher will get his second touchdown of the game, this time from 16 yards out from Johnson with 1:39 left in the third quarter. Extra point good, 19-16. Bulldogs will answer when Davion Walker will get a 36-yard pass from Eric Handley. Extra point good. Bulldogs went up 23-19 at that point with 10 minutes left in the game. The Rattlers would drive down immediately. Jalen Rogers, 27-yard pass from R.J. Johnson. Extra point good, 26-23. And then just to kind of see how this thing finished out, let's take a look at the final couple of drives of the game. After the Rattlers would score, Bulldogs would get the ball, and let's do the drop. So let's look at it this way. All right, so Alabama A&M will get the ball at their own. They get the ball to 25, and then they would go 6 plays and punt. FAMU would get in the ball back, and then they would get the ball at their own 27, and basically not be able to do much. They went 37 yards down to the FAMU 36, and that was that. So just not much there after that, but there was an opportunity for them to get a score, but they just couldn't seal the deal, and FAMU would pull out the win. Rattlers 20 first downs, Bulldogs 24, 93 yards rushing for the Rattlers, 28 carries, 3.3 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. 233 on the ground for the Bulldogs, 38 carries, 6.1 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. 299 through the air for the Rattlers, 20 or 24, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. 227 for the Bulldogs, 20 or 34, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 392 total offense for the Rattlers, 52 plays, 7.5 yards per play, one fumble, didn't lose it, 7 penalties for 60 yards, and then 460 total offense for the Bulldogs, 72 plays, 6.4 yards per play, no fumbles. They had 3 penalties for 15 yards. Rattlers 4 points for 40.8 yard average. Bulldogs 33 for 38.3. 25-33 time possession, 25-23 for the time possession for the Rattlers. They were only 2 of 9 on third down, 1 on 1 on fourth down, 2 of 2 in the red zone. They did have 2 sacks, and they were 2 or 3 on extra points, 0 for 2 on field goals. So a lot of missed opportunities there for extra points. Bulldogs 34-37 time possession, 11 of 18 on third down, 1 for 1 on fourth down, 2 or 3 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks, They were 2 or 2 on extra points and 3 or 4 on field goals. Rattlers, they were led by R.J. Johnson going 20 or 24, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 sacks. Eric Hanley, 20 or 33 for the Bulldogs, 227 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 2 sacks. Thad Franklin led the Rattlers with 16 carries for 65 yards. Ryan Morrow led the Bulldogs with 18 for 136 and a touchdown. Wilcher led the Rattlers with 4 catches for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. Walker, 4 for 63 and a touchdown for the Bulldogs. Nayron Jenkins had 14 tackles to lead the Rattlers. James Gardner Jr., 1.5 tackles for loss. And they had 4 guys combined for half a sack apiece to lead the defense. Bulldog Jordan Milton finished with 9 tackles. Booker and Tibbs each had 2 tackles for loss apiece, and Tibbs led the defense with 1 sack. They did record an interception. Let's go back and give that guy his credit. The interception was by Amari Lee. So again, not pretty football for FAMU, but it's a win. They have opportunity to kind of finish their season, on a positive note. They went out A&M, better game than they've had in previous weeks, but still, can't get over that hump and get those wins. They still have a lot of building to do, but they do have some positives in front of them. So a lot of opportunities to make things happen in the future. Next up, we'll take a look at we'll just do a recap because I can't pull up a box score for this game. Not that it's really necessary, but Alabama State put the beats down on Valley by a score of 41-3. So just looking at the recap, Alabama State led 13-0 at the half on touchdown runs of 9 yards in the first quarter and 31 yards in the second quarter by Jamari Holesclaw. Hornets did score 28 points in the third quarter, 21 off of 3 Valley turnovers. Tayshawn Smoot had a 29-yard touchdown pass to Ajay Harrell on the opening possession of the third quarter to go up 20-0. Jaleel Lenore had an interception to set up a Carl Ligon 7-yard touchdown to make the score 27-0. Tayshawn Sims had an interception to put the Hornets back in business in Valley territory. Marcus Harris would get a 12-yard run to make the score 34-0. And then Tyree Saunders got a fumble, punt, snap, and ran it in for a 35-yard score to cap the third quarter with a 41-0 lead. Valley did get a 26-yard field goal to avoid the shutout with under a minute left in the game. The Hornets defense basically allowed 10 points in their last 6 quarters, 17 in their last 8, so they've been playing a lot better. The Hornets improved to 3-0 in the Port City Classic. Bama State has won 8 games for the first time since 2018, so this is still a positive mark for them. Valley, with that late field goal, ended the Hornets' chance for their first shutout since 2019. Harris has 14 total touchdowns, 13 and one rushing to move him to 4th on the single season touchdown list. So that's another good mark. And like I said, this was just a game where it wasn't that out of reach in the first half, but Valley turnovers really did them in, and Bama State was able to convert, and Valley could never get nothing going. So big third quarter was the difference in this game, and that led to the blowout that we had. Finally, Jackson State and Bethune-Cookman battled. 28-13, Tigers win. This game was probably closer score-wise than the actual game was. I think Jackson State really controlled this game, especially with their ground game. But for one reason or another, they couldn't really get the points on the board. Defense, really great effort here for Jackson State. Defense gave up no offensive touchdowns. Honestly, they didn't give up any points. All their points were special teams points. So the defense played a really good game for Jackson State. Offense played well too, but just couldn't really cash in more scores because this could have been a game where they scored in the 40s, but they did enough to get the win. They opened up the game with a 83-yard pass from Lockhart to Gardner. Extra point was good. That was with 14-16 left in the first quarter. Tigers lead 7-0. Javon Ross would return the ensuing kickoff, 98 yards for a touchdown to tie the game up at 7. 8:13 left in the second quarter. Travis Terrell, 25-yard run for the Tigers. Extra point good. They led 14-7. With time expiring in the first half, Juan Dominguez, 37-yard field goal for the Wildcats to make the score 14-10. Bethune-Cookman would get a Juan Dominguez field goal from 32 yards out with 11:37 left in the third quarter to make the score 14-13. 2:01 left in the third. Denario Davenport, 6-yard run for Jackson State. Extra point good, 21-13. And then with 13 seconds left, BJ Washington, 82-yard pick six for Jackson State. Extra point good, 28-13. When you look at the team stats, 13 first downs for Bethune-Cookman, 22 for Jackson State, 75 yards for the Wildcats on the ground, 25 carries, 3 yards per carry, no touchdowns. 360 yards rushing for Jackson State on 52 carries, 6.9 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 215 yards through the air for Bethune-Cookman, 15 of 28. They had no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 160 yards through the air for Jackson State, 12 of 21, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 290 yards of offense for the Wildcats, 53 plays, 5.5 yards per play. They had 1 fumble and lost it. They had 2 penalties for 15 yards. 520 total offense for Jackson State, 73 plays, 7.1 yard per play. They had 1 fumble and lost it. 7 penalties for 50 yards. Wildcats punted 6 times for a 50.3 yard average. Tigers 4 for 37.5. 25-31 time of possession for Bethune-Cookman, 2 of 12 on third down, 1 or 2 on fourth down. Didn't get in the red zone. They had 1 sack. They made their only extra point, and they made both their field goals. 34-29 time of possession for Jackson State, 4-12 on third down, 2 or 3 on fourth down. They were 1 or 2 in the red zone. They had 1 sack. They were 4-4 on extra points. They did miss a field goal. And honestly, when you look at it, they basically just played keep away because they were just able to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, and Bethune really couldn't do anything. Cam Ransom, 15 of 28, 215 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 sack. Jared Lockhart, 12 of 21, 160 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack. Ransom led the Wildcats with 16 carries for 69 yards. He was their running game. The only other guys combined for 6 yards on 9 carries, so they did not have much of a running game. Ahmad Miller, 22 carries, 118 yards for Jackson State. Davenport, 11 for 106. Terrell, 11 for 103 and a touchdown. Davenport did have a touchdown. So when you have 3 guys go for over 100 yards apiece, it's going to be tough to stop you. And that's been the case here. Lorenzo Jenkins, 2 catches, 69 yards for the Wildcats. Gardner, 3 for 98 and a touchdown to lead the Tigers. Antoine Watts led Bethune-Cookman with 11 tackles. Thompson, Hall, Davis, and Harris and Thornhill each had a tackle for loss apiece. The sack was by Thompson. Interception was by McKenzie. Jackson State was led by Frankie Dunn with 5 tackles. Wells, 1.5 tackle for loss. And Brown and Dunn each had a half a sack apiece. Washington had an interception and Salas had an interception. And like I said, this was just one of those, again, could have been a worse score, but Jackson State offensively was able to do what they needed to do. The defense basically pitched the shutout, if you want to look at it that way. No offensive points. And so they did everything that they needed to do, and they got a defensive touchdown. So you really can't ask for too much more there. And, that puts them in a position to where they win Saturday, it's all good. So looking at the standings, Jackson State is 6-1 atop the East, 8-2 overall. They won 3 games in a row. Bama State 6-1, 8-2 overall. They won 4 games in a row. Florida A&M 4-2, 5-5 overall. They won 2 games in a row. Bethune-Cookman 4-3, 5-6 overall. They've lost 2 games in a row. Alabama A&M 1-6, 4-7 overall. They lost 4 games in a row. and Valley 0-6, 1-9 overall, and they've lost 4 in a row. Looking at the East, it's basically simple. Jackson State win. They are the division champs. They host the SWAC championship game. Bama State wins and Jackson State loses. Hornets win the division. If they both lose, Jackson State still wins. If they both win, Jackson State still wins. So really, the only Jackson State should win the division, barring a Soul Bowl loss to Alcorn. They should win it. They will win the division. And so they're playing again. They're in the driver's seat. They got their hand on the wheel. They're turning the ignition. Hadn't really started the carb yet, but they are in good shape. Hornets, like I said, they need to win and then get some help, and then they'll be there. So the East is pretty simple. There's no need for all these scenarios and these tiebreakers and all this stuff. It's pretty simple. Jackson State wins, they are the division champs, no matter what Bama State do. So it's pretty simple, cut and dry. Next week we'll know who our East champ is. In the West, like I said, Prairie View won the West. They're 6-1, 8-3 overall. They won 2 games in a row. Grambling 4-3, 7-4 overall. They've lost 1. Texas Southern 4-3, 5-5 overall. They won 1. If you're doing it standing wise, it's a mess because Alcorn is 4-3 as well, 5-6 overall. I would think Alcorn in this situation would be the second place team because they did beat Texas Southern and Grambling. So, I know second place don't really mean a lot, but when you started off the season like Alcorn did, you got a chance to finish second. You're in good shape. Pine Bluff 2-5, 4-7 overall. They've lost 2 in a row. Southern 0-7, 1-10 overall. They've lost 9 games in a row. And so, their season is shot. And so Prairie View, like I said, they have a chance to finish 7-1 and win 9 games and get go to the SWAC championship. So we will know our SWAC championship game by the end of next week. And that makes this a whole lot simpler. We don't need tiebreakers, we don't need scenarios, we don't need none of that. We pretty much got what we need. And so looking at week 13, Pine Bluff is at Bama State, Alabama A&M is at Texas Southern. Valley is at Prairie View. Bethune-Cookman is playing Florida A&M in Orlando in the Florida Classic. And Alcorn is at Jackson State. That's the Soul Bowl. So all games are early, 12 o'clock Central for Bama State, Pine Bluff. Alabama A&M, Texas Southern, 2 o'clock Central. Valley, Prairie View, 2 o'clock Central. Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, that's 2:30. I want to say that's Central Time, 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern Time. And Alcorn, Jackson State, 2:30 Central Time. So those are the final games for all these teams in conference play, with the exception of Valley and FAMU. They do have a game the following week. Alabama State does have another game, but it's a non-conference game. So that's pretty much that. So that's gonna do it for today's show, man. I thank y'all for tuning in. I thank y'all for rocking with us. Y'all make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. We want to get to these 1,500 subscribers, and we'll catch y'all this week as we preview week 13. With that being said, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Sewell signing out, and I will catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.